Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Aaron's High Cap Adventure Radio program. I am Matt, your host, and this is going to be a recorded interview with Officer Paul Benton. A few weeks ago, we did an interview at an undisclosed location at just doing traffic stops and all other sorts of police activities. We were on the road. I was with him in his vehicle. We are that way again today, and we had such great reception of the interview. Had a lot of people commenting on how good it was, informative it was, how relaxed of a conversation it was, that we decided to do a part 2. So once again, here we are with Officer Paul Benton. Officer Benton, would you like to say hi to everybody out there?
Well, hello, everybody out there.
Not only is Officer Benton a great officer, he's a great friend. I've known Officer Benton here for a while. We do a lot of training together, and I'm just appreciative of him letting me come in the vehicle to observe what's going on and to interview him and ask a few questions. Now, Paul, last time we talked about a plethora of things, but tonight, just to give an example of the things we're going to talk about, you had a traffic stop, a vehicle search, and a possible break-in to a house. So we're going to talk about those few things, basically, and I want to ask you some questions concerning it. But the first thing I want to talk about was the search of a vehicle. And the reason I like to talk to you is because you're a common sense kind of guy. You're an officer who obeys, who does your duty well, abides by the law. You've been trained to do certain things, and you enforce the law. That's your duty, and you're very good at it, but you have a lot of common sense. So a lot of people out there are kind of curious to the procedure or the reason behind or protocol for a search of a vehicle at a traffic stop. Can you first tell us why that may come to pass? Okay, you pull over a vehicle, and then how do you get inside the person's vehicle? Why do you get inside the person's vehicle? What does it take to get inside of a person's vehicle? And what happens if for some reason there's resistance to that? So that was a lot, but I'm sure you can handle it.
Well, several different things, Matt. To get into somebody's vehicle on the side of the road, number one, I have to have probable cause. Probable cause being I can see something, I can smell something, I'm aware of another circumstance. That gives me the authority to enter the vehicle without somebody's permission. Now, if I want to go into the vehicle and search it just because of a feeling I have, then I need to either build my probable cause or I need to ask the vehicle operator for permission to enter that vehicle. And like tonight's search, the operator of the vehicle allowed us to enter that vehicle on his own.
Okay, so to recap what you just said here, just to make it clear, for some reason or another, you had to pull over a vehicle. Let's say it was a busted taillight.
Okay.
And the car is on the side of the road. You come up to the vehicle, and for some reason, you either smell something or see something in the vehicle, which then in turn gives it probable cause that there may be something in there illegal, which gives you the authority at that point to search the vehicle whether they like it or not. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, let's say you don't smell anything or see anything, but you just have an officer's hunch.
Right.
And you want to get in that vehicle, you have to ask permission from the person. What if the person says no? Does that, like, I've heard some stories where people say, okay, that's fine, you can say no, I'll just bring the canines and see if we can sniff something out. So what do you say to that?
Yeah, you can do that. I don't like to do that. To me, it looks bad on the stand if I do find something. If I have no probable cause, luckily my patrol partner is a canine officer. So if I have no probable cause, I straight up contact her if I have that gut feeling, and I have her do an open air sniff. And that just alleviates the need to ask for permission to enter the vehicle.
Okay, so once the dog, what's the key word for it?
Alerts.
Alerts, thank you. Once the dog alerts that there's something recognized as some type of contraband or illegal substance, that gives you the ability to search the vehicle.
Correct.
Okay, so let's take that out of the picture, but you just feel like you want to do a search anyway, and you ask the driver of the vehicle, what would you say to him exactly?
Number one, I would ask them, do you have anything illegal in the vehicle? Is there anything that you need to let me know about within your vehicle? And pretty standard is no. And then I'll ask, do you mind if I look in your vehicle? And, sometimes you'll get a yes or no straight up. Sometimes you'll get a, well, what do you want to do that for? And, they're all legitimate answers. If I got pulled over and somebody asked me if they could look in my vehicle, why? It's pretty common answers. My comeback to that is, as you know, I'm a police officer, and part of our job is to search vehicles for contraband, illegal narcotics, dead bodies, stuff like that.
Okay.
Sometimes,
That's part of your job if the probable cause is there.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. I don't ask a lot of times for permission to search. I prefer to have probable cause.
That's because the common sense, nice kind of guy you are.
Right.
That's the way you fly.
Now
Okay.
there are exceptions to that. If I'm in a high drug traffic area and I'm doing traffic stops, I will randomly ask permission to search a vehicle. Not necessarily that I want to find anything, but that the people in the area are seeing that the police are searching vehicles. So hopefully that word is getting out and it's keeping the drug trafficking down.
Okay, but just to be clear, just to clarify what you just said, you would willingly ask to search the vehicle sometimes.
Sometimes.
But if the individual had no probable cause and said no, you just let them go on.
I don't stand there and argue the point.
Okay, I get your point. I mean, that makes it so clear. We had an earlier discussion about how, I'm going to say 95% of the people going to listening to this interview later on are law-abiding citizens, want to know what procedure is so that they can be more compliant willingly. If we're all law-abiding citizens, there's really nothing to worry about, but we don't want rights stamped on either. And so understanding how things work and how sometimes if there is probable cause, you no longer have that right of refusal.
Right.
Just having a better understanding of it helps the person accept the situation better, I would think. Because I know if I'm in that situation and I understand why things are happening, I have a tendency to be much more calm about it and realistic and accepting of it. Okay. Anything else you can mention about that?
No, that's pretty much it, I believe.
Pretty much cut and dry,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Okay. There was another thing that happened tonight, which, darn it, I wish I could have participated in, but it was a potential break-in of a home, or what would you guys call it? You called in somebody in a house.
They said the call was they believed there were people in an abandoned home.
So that would be illegal
Yeah.
entry of a habitation? What would you call that?
Yeah. Criminal trespass.
Criminal trespass.
Burglary of a habitation. It just really kind of depends on what's taking place.
Now, why I'm bringing this up, ladies and gentlemen, is because Paul here and I do a lot of training. And we do a lot of training when it comes to clearing rooms and turning corners and going down hallways and walking through doorways, which are very vulnerable positions. So when he gets the call to do a live scenario and goes to a very dark part of a street, to a very dark house that potentially has somebody in it, you don't know what the situation is going to be, and so there's a pucker factor there that's greatly increased. And so when you enter the building, you never know if it's hot or not. Now in training, you know you're going to walk back out of it at the end of training and you'll be okay. But in a situation like this, you never know if that's the day that bad things are going to happen. So Paul, give me an idea, give everybody an idea of what that feels like for real as compared to training at our facility. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, with our High Cap Adventures training seminars, we go over all this. So you want to check out our website at aaronsgunshop.com and go to the High Cap Adventure page and look at all the different seminars that we have, because we do this type of training. But go ahead, Paul, explain the pucker factor there.
Well, this particular one, we had to enter the house through a window. So going through the window, it's like, crap, I'm going to be exposed and vulnerable as I make an entry. On this one, it was my partner who went first, and so it's hard to cover them. It's hard to protect them when they're at that vulnerable time. So that's going through your mind. You get through the window. You're trying to listen for noises. You're breathing heavy. Your your microphone's going off. Dispatch is talking to you. You got to respond to dispatch. You got to clear the house. You got to watch your partner's back. It's nerve-wracking. You're going down a hallway and there's 4 rooms and 4 doors, and it just.
So here you are. You're a trained officer, and you've got backup, and you've got the ability to use force without really any hesitation due to the fact that this is a bad situation. Can you imagine what a homeowner must feel like if somebody breaks into their home?
Yeah, I'm wearing a bulletproof vest and I'm still worried.
That's right. So what would you say to people out there who just heard what you said, who may have some slight concern about break-ins in their home? I mean, talk about our training, what we do.
Well, Matt, every time we have one of the seminars, I try to articulate to people, train. Go home and turn the lights off and go through your house. Figure where everything is. Know where all your furniture is. Figure out a plan for what you're going to do when and if this happens. So it won't be that big of a surprise if you have to go through your home at night. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense to me. Let me give an application here. Not too long ago, a situation happened in my home where we thought we were live. In other words, something was going on and we thought it was live. And my response time was not as quick as I would have liked. What happens is sometimes you become lax. And when you're lax is when that's going to screw you up. And so you have to constantly refresh yourself. I mean, it wasn't a worry of can I do this and can I do that. It was the response time that was irritating to me. I could have done it a lot quicker. So me being trained or training constantly like this and still find myself with an error of delayed time, can you imagine somebody who doesn't train, who is not prepared, who hasn't gone through the kind of training that we've gone through, and a real life situation happens, we're going to have massive failure, don't you think?
Yes, I do.
I read a lot of stories from the NRA, the Armed Citizens column, and a lot of the times the bad guy in the house gets shot very low. Because why? The person's freaking out, anticipating the trigger pull, just popping rounds, and it's not a trained response. It's more of an untrained reaction.
Right.
So it's very key to do training. What was the most, when you entered the house, what is the, I guess, most worrisome thing when you entered that house? What was the immediate concern? The initial entry?
Initially, yeah. Making that entry, you're bent over, you're going through a window, you're completely vulnerable. There's a curtain over the window so you can't see the layout of the room. So you're making entry through a window, you're bent over, you're trying to figure out the layout of the room you're entering into. You got hallways, it's...
I'll be honest with you, Paul. I know I'm not allowed to engage, just riding along here, but I'm watching you guys go into that building, trying to find an entry point, checking out the bushes, turning doorknobs, lifting up garage doors, the whole works. And then I saw you guys were about to go in, and I'm going, okay, this is it. And I'm across the street thinking, man, I want to be there, I want to back you up. But I was nerved just by watching you. I can imagine what you felt like going through it. And I can imagine, or actually I don't have to imagine what it's like to think that somebody's breaking into your home. So what this boils down to is you need to train. These guys train all the time. They got body armor. They got weapons on them. They got backup. But you and I, ladies and gentlemen, it's us. Because when we call that 911 number, it may take quite a while for an officer to show up on the scene. And I know, especially if you're out in the country and you've got 1 or 2 deputies, they're on both sides of the county and you're in the middle. It takes time to get there. So train, practice, be prepared. Take some of the seminars that we've got. Go to aaronsgunshop.com. Go to the High Cap Adventure page. So there's a lot more going on tonight, but we're going to take a quick break here. And when we come back, we'll talk some more to Paul about some things that happen in the night and during the day and when wearing a badge and what he can share with us, the audience. So we'll be back soon. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Aaron's High Cap Adventure Radio program. We're back here again with Officer Paul Benton in an undisclosed location. I'm in the vehicle with him, riding along, checking things out, having a good time, learning a lot of things. And Paul, we were just discussing in the break here about prowlers. And I've heard a lot of horror stories about prowlers and accidental shootings because people are out there doing things they're not supposed to do. What I'd like to do in this, I guess, little segment that we've got in the interview is talk about the process of somebody in their home who feels that there's somebody outside their home or on their porch or something like that. They're prowling around or they're sniffing for a place to get in, and they call 911 and officers on the way. So with that scenario, tell me what's going through your mind. Tell me if you got communication, go with dispatch. Tell me what you're thinking, you're hoping the homeowner's doing. What should the homeowner do? Talk to me on different angles of this scenario so that it can help anybody in that situation to not get themselves hurt by an accidental shooting of some sort.
Yeah, I always talk to dispatch. Dispatch is lifeline. One, I'm going to want to know if the caller has actually seen somebody or if they're just hearing the noise. They've actually seen somebody. As much description as possible. What are they wearing? Are they, what race are they? Are they big, tall, short, fat, skinny? A good description of who they've seen. I would hope the caller's not opening windows and looking out and exposing themselves to possible danger. Hopefully they'll stay inside. They're a little bit safer inside. If you go outside, what if it's the boogeyman? He might eat you or something.
Let me interject you for a second. If you hear chatter on the radio, ladies and gentlemen, there's live chatter on the police radio, so that's what you're hearing. But Paul, if they call in and you're getting the call, I would assume it was a 911 call, and I'm assuming that the dispatcher is going to try and keep that individual on the line until the officer arrives. Would that be correct?
Yes.
Okay, so they're on the line. They shouldn't be roaming around unless they're on a cell phone. So let's take it back now to your scenario here. You talk to dispatch, lifeline, you go into the house, and you're hoping that the homeowner is going to be doing what?
I hope they're going to be in the house, explaining exactly where they heard the noise, what it is they heard. Most people know what noises you normally hear around your house. Matt, out there where you live, I'm sure you're used to hearing cows moo and horses neighing, and so if you hear tires screeching and horns blowing, that's really not that normal out there by where you live. So that would be an indicator of something that you may call in on.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's apply that break-in or that supposed break-in or criminal trespassing of that abandoned building. The next door neighbor called up and said, I see shadows. So when you went there, and I'm assuming that you discussed that with him, that wasn't very descriptive. It could have been shadows of the trees hitting the house, but a description like that is very vague. So it's obviously better to have more description as possible.
Right, yes. Any and all information that can be given is helpful.
Okay, now, the individual decides to go outside their house. Bad mistake. Would you not agree?
Yeah, on several levels. One, if you don't know what's out there and you've called 911, well, believe it or not, we get paid to get into trouble, let us put ourselves in harm's way. That's why you called us.
Paul, just a couple seconds ago, we were talking about how you're now coming on scene to a property that the homeowner called up 911, said there's a prowler on the house. But you're coming up to the property. We're saying how you need to stay in the home, not go outside. Give us some reasons, or explain when you come on property what you're going to be doing, so those who are listening right now, and God forbid if anything ever happens and they're going to be the ones checking a prowler around their house and police are on the way, they have an understanding of what's going to happen with the potential clash.
Well, if you call the police and you're waiting for them to get there, and all of a sudden you decide, well, I'm going to go out here and check and see what's going on. So you grab your gun or whatever, and you go outside, you're in the backyard, you're flashing your light around, and you haven't told dispatch you're doing this, and we arrive on scene. Well, we're seeing that flashlight, so we're coming around the edge of the house, and the homeowners heard our car pull up, so they're thinking, well, I need to go let the police know what's going on, and we meet at a corner.
Bad.
And all I'm seeing is somebody in the yard with a flashlight and a gun. And my call was there was a prowler. It's probably going to show you what the business into my gun looks like real quick.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Paul, this is a perfect illustration here. There was one time when my alarm system went off in my gun range, my gun shop. Mm-hmm. And I'm down there, and the call's been made. I've got the automated alarm system. It alerts the police department, the sheriff's department, the whole works. And they had badges coming on scene, but I'm already down there with my M4 and my pistol, checking it out, seeing what's going on. And I've got PD and I got SO people coming out. And here I am down there at the shop, and I've got an M4. I'm in my jammies, but they're coming down the drive, and they see this guy, this crazy-looking guy with an M4 in his hand. I mean, I can imagine what they're thinking. So I'm putting my hands up saying, no, it's not me. And they know me. I was very fortunate that they know me. It's not too many people out there who don't know who I am. But it's just, that's a perfect illustration of how I'm going down to protect my property, and police are on their way, and there could be a confusion that I am the person that they're hunting, and that could have been ugly.
Yes, it could have been very ugly. I know of a business owner at a former agency I worked for. He's also a police officer, and his business had been hit. Well, anytime his alarm went off, me and him would get there at about the same time. Now, luckily, I knew who he was, so when he bails out of his car in his jammies with an M4, I knew him. And I was glad to see him, because, hey, now I got some backup. But that's not always the case. 9 times out of 10, the officer's not going to know you. And when they're out there looking for a prowler and you pop around the corner, well, I just found a prowler.
That's right. Another thing you just said that made me think of something else was the homeowner can be, even if the homeowner isn't a threat, or the officer knows that, has located the homeowner should not think that they're going to be assisting the officer. When you're maneuvering around, when you're checking things out, especially with a partner, you know each other. You know how each other handles themselves under stress, hand and arm signals, look at the eyes. You can just tell what their next step's going to be. So if you have a homeowner who's trying to assist you, 1, is detrimental. 2, they shouldn't be doing it in the first place. And so don't do that, right?
Right.
Now, when I was down there and law enforcement was coming, obviously, I mean, I've known these guys, and it wasn't that much of a deal, and I'm actually going in the building with them because I'm opening up the door, so I'm the first one in there. But in a normal situation where somebody's not trained, that just stay low, keep the phone to your ear, keep talking to 911, be the best witness you can, and then all that information will be relayed to you, the officer from dispatch, right?
Correct.
Okay, so to wrap this all up on this particular part of this, what would be the bottom line, Paul? Wrap it up.
As far as what to do when the police get
Yeah,
there.
just sit tight.
Sit tight. We'll come to you. I promise. We're going to knock on the door and say, hey, I searched, I looked, everything looks good.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about the people on the outside of the building. When somebody breaches in, that's a totally different ball game.
That's a whole talking.
I mean, that's a whole new ball of wax. But we're specifically talking about you or the homeowner going outside of their secured building to search for the prowler, especially when police are on their way and there's potential confusion of who you are, and they can cause a potential accident. So that's the mindset of an officer. So Paul, that's awesome from your perspective. You also get the perspective of dispatch and the badge, and it can be very messy. So lock your windows, lock your doors, have security lights, call 911, sit
Matt,
tight,
can
and go fast.
can I say one more thing?
You can say two more things if you want.
Ladies that are listening, if the officer shows up, don't get behind him and push him. Because I couldn't tell you how many times I've gone where there's been a lady home alone and she's heard a noise, and so you're searching, and next thing you know, she's right behind you, looking around you or over your shoulder.
Well,
What do you see?
you're her
What do you
protection.
see? And she's got you by the back, and you think maybe you heard something. She pushes you towards the noise. Well, hold up now, lady. Don't do that.
Okay,
So-
well, that's a man of experience here, so it must happen more often than not. So, ladies, stand back and let the officer do his duty. All right, Paul, we're gonna cut it off on this, but I'll tell you what, I think this is good for the interview. Maybe we'll get you back again for some more perspective on different aspects of wearing the badge, being on the beat, and knowing what's going on, so that you can relay it to us, the listener, and the law-abiding citizen. So I want to thank you very much for your time, for allowing me to ride along with you, and it's a lot of fun, and sometimes it can be intense, and sometimes I like that. So I appreciate it.
Yes,
Thanks.
sir.